Hello, this is Jacqueline from Jack Knits, and today we're going to learn how to make this beautiful button band that you can use to wrap around any of your scarves that you knitted. I put it around this Tweed Stitch scarf, and I will have a pattern to that scarf in the description below if you'd like to link to that. It's a free pattern if you'd like to make this entire scarf, but I want to concentrate today on how to make this button band, including this buttonhole that you can easily add to a band to add a decorative button to add a little bit of flair to any scarf. So let's get started on this. All right, to make this little button band, we are going to take the same size needle, which is a US size 10. I'm just using a shorter DPN because we're just making just a little swatch here. We don't need long needles, but you can use the same needles that you did for your larger scarf. And then we're going to just need to find a nice large button that will fit nicely in our buttonhole. So let's begin. We're going to begin by just casting on 6 stitches to this to start this band. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to just knit our very first row. So knit those 6 stitches. Okay, so that is the very first row. And now we're going to do a series of increase stitches because we want our button band to kind of start small and become a little bit wider as it goes up. So the next few rows, we're going to incorporate some increases, and we're going to do that with a knit in the front and back of each stitch on the front and end of each row. So here's the knit in front and back stitch. We're going to knit it like normal, and this is the very first stitch of the row. Knit, but before you take it off the needle, also now go into the back of the stitch in that loop back there and knit it through the back. Now you can slide that stitch off the needle, and now we have 2 stitches instead of 1. So that is 1 increase. We'll do that again at the end of the row. So now let's knit to the end of the row, leaving 1 stitch left, which is knitting 4. And we're going to do that same knit in the front and back on this last stitch. So knit in the front, and then knit in the back of that same stitch. And now we got another increase. So now instead of 6 stitches on the needle, we have 8. So we're going to do that a couple more times. But on the way back, we're just going to knit all the way across. We won't do our increases on the wrong side rows. Okay, let's flip it around and let's do those increases again on the very first and last stitch. So let's do a knit in the front and back, knit in the front, and knit in the back stitch. And now let's knit to the end stitch. And do that increase again. Knit in the front and knit in the back. Okay, so now we have 10 stitches on our needle. We're going to do that one more time, so we have a total of 12 stitches. So I'm going to knit it all the way across on the back, do that same increase pattern one more time, knit on the way back, and I'll show you where we are. Okay, so I did that increase one more time. So now I have a total of 12 stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 stitches. So that's going to be the width of my band here. And I am going to now just knit garter stitch. So I'm going to knit every row for another 5 rows before we do our little buttonhole. So let's knit 5 more rows and then we'll jump to the buttonhole. All right, I knitted 5 more rows and now we are ready to place our buttonhole. So you see that we have 12 stitches on our needle here, and we're going to place our buttonhole in the very center over across these 4 stitches. So we're going to have 4 stitches on each side and 4 stitches in the middle that are going to make up the buttonhole. So here's how to do that. We're going to first knit to where we want our buttonhole to be, so that's knitting 4 stitches. Now we're actually going to bind off 4 stitches in the middle of our work. So just like any other bind off, we're going to knit one, knit a second stitch, pass that first stitch that we knitted over that second stitch, and that is 1 stitch binded off. So that was 1, we're going to do that again, knit another stitch, and pass that first stitch over that last stitch. So that's 2 bound off. Knit, pass over, that's 3, we'll do 1 more. And that's 4 stitches bound off. So now we've got 3 stitches left on our needle, and we're just going to knit those. Okay, so now we've got this little gap for our buttonhole. So now we have to close that up by knitting all the way across. And here's how we're going to do that. Let's turn our work to the other side. And we are going to knit these first 4 stitches. Now we are going to turn our work. So we're not going to knit over here yet. We're just going to turn our work over. So our working yarn is now on our left hand here. And now we're going to cast on 4 stitches. So we bound off 4 stitches earlier to make this gap. Now to add stitches across the top, we need to cast on. So the cast on method that we're going to use is the knitted cast on, and here's how we're going to do that. We're going to knit this first stitch, but as you knit it, pull it through, kind of give it a little extra room, and then twist it around and place it back on your left needle. Okay, so now we've added 1 stitch there. So now we've got 1 stitch casted on. Let's do that 3 more times. Knit that stitch, that last one we just casted on, pull that stitch through, give it a little extra room, then twist your left needle up and through to slide that stitch back on that left needle. Okay, let's do it 2 more times. It's 3. And 1 more. All right, so now we have 4 new stitches casted on our needle. All right, now we need to turn our work again because now we've got to knit these 4 stitches remaining on our needle. So to do that, we got to turn our work again so that working yarn is now coming off our right needle. Now we can finish this row by knitting these last 4 stitches. Okay, so now you see that we've got this little horizontal buttonhole right in the middle of our work. We cast it off to make room for that hole, and then we cast it on to add stitches across the top. So now going forward, now we can just simply knit all the way across. So now you've got a nice buttonhole that you can take a button and you can see, set that down, so you can see that it flips through there quite nicely. You want your buttonhole to be much smaller than your actual button on a knitted piece because that is going to stretch quite a bit. So you can even have this size of a button, it fits through that buttonhole very easily. Okay, so now we're just going to continue this garter stitch pattern, knitting every stitch on every row until it measures about 12 inches. And then when we get to the other end, we're going to then do a series of decrease stitches so we also can have this little shape at the other end of our band. So I'm just going to work ahead. I'm not going to do the full 12 inches just to save on time, but I'll do a little ways and then we'll come back and show you how to do those decreases and wrap this up. All right, I've knitted several more rows. In reality, if you were going to knit with this for the scarf, you would do this until this piece measured about 12 inches. But just to save on time, I only did a few rows, and now we're going to just do the back side of this band, which is some decrease stitches so the back side mirrors the front, or both ends mirror each other. So basically we're doing the exact thing that we did with the increase, but instead of doing increase stitches on the first and last stitches, we're going to do a decrease stitch. And the decrease stitch that we're going to do at the first and last stitch of this row is a knit two together. So we're going to take these two stitches and actually knit them together. So slide your needle through both of those stitches so you can knit those two together. Slide those two stitches off. So my two stitches now became one. So that is a decrease. Now we're going to knit till the last stitch of this row and do that again on the last stitch. Or the last two stitches, you want to make sure that you're do that till two stitches remain, because now we're going to knit those last two together. And that decreased that. So now we have 10 stitches left on our needle. So same as before, we're going to knit all the way back on the back side row. Okay, let's do another set of decreases on the first and last couple stitches. So these first two stitches, we're going to knit two together for another decrease. Knit to the last two stitches. And knit those two together for another decrease. Now we have 2, 4, 6, 8 stitches. Let's knit across this way, and we'll do it one more time. Decrease the first two stitches, knit two together, knit to the last two stitches, and knit those two together. And we have 6 stitches remaining. That's what we're looking for. So we're just going to knit that last row of 6 stitches. And that's the end of the band. Of course, this would be 12 inches long, but let's bind that off here just to finish this up. Binding off, we're going to knit one, knit a second one, pass that slip stitch or that stitch over the second stitch, and we'll do that all the way across, so we are binding off each stitch. Okay, and that's how you do this fun little button band with a buttonhole. Now your final step will be just to take your button, and on this, the bind off end, you will sew it, just a little bit up from the end, sew it on there so you can easily wrap it around your scarf, slip your button through the hole, and you've got this beautiful button band scarf. So you can actually put this band around any existing scarf that you make if you would like to just dress it up a little bit. So I hope you found this video helpful on how to make this delightful button band that you can add to your existing scarf or any new scarf that you make, and also on how to make this nice buttonhole. You can incorporate that into many different projects. So if you like what you've seen here, please don't forget to subscribe. You'll receive videos all about knitting tips and tutorials and creative patterns and stitches. So happy knitting, everyone. Thanks for watching.